The stars above Earth were not peaceful that night. They shimmered like trembling witnesses to something terrible about to unfold. Humanity had long thought of itself as small, a single species on a tiny blue world, spinning quietly in a corner of the galaxy. But that illusion ended the day the sky burned gold and the universe came knocking. It started with silence. No news, no satellites, no signals, just static across every screen. Then, for the first time in decades, the International Defense Network went dark. Within minutes, military radars across the planet reported a single object descending from orbit. Not an asteroid, not a ship they recognized, something else. Dr. Elias Ward watched the readings from the New Geneva Observatory. His hands trembled over the console as the data formed on the holographic screen. The object was the size of a small moon, moving with precision, controlled by intelligence beyond human comprehension. Its surface reflected no light, as if it absorbed the very color of space. "This can't be real," whispered his assistant Mara. "No propulsion, no energy signature, yet it's controlling its descent." Elias didn't answer. He only whispered a prayer. The world watched as the sky over the Pacific Ocean opened with a silent flash. The massive construct, like a floating cathedral forged from black metal and starlight, hovered in the upper atmosphere. Cities across the planet saw its shadow stretch for hundreds of miles. It did not move. It only waited. Then a voice came, not through radios or screens, but inside every human mind. It spoke with authority, calm and ancient. "Children of Sol, kneel. The Empire of Orion recognizes your species." The judgment begins. Panic erupted. Governments scrambled to respond. But how do you fight something that speaks directly to your thoughts? Fighter jets were deployed. Missiles were armed. But every weapon that approached the alien structure simply vanished, erased from existence as if reality itself refused to touch it. The Orion Empire had come, not to invade, but to test. They demanded Earth's surrender, not of territory, but of pride. The message was clear. Humanity was to acknowledge the superiority of the Empire, to kneel in unity before them. Resistance meant annihilation. For the first time in history, all of Earth's leaders gathered under one banner. In the underground halls of the United Earth Council, arguments filled the air. Some called for surrender to protect billions of lives. Others shouted that humanity should die standing, not live on its knees. General Rebecca Holt slammed her fist on the table. "Listen to yourselves. They want us to bow, not for peace, for dominance. Every species they've conquered has done the same, and you know what happened next. Extinction, slow and polite." Her words silenced the room. Dr. Elias, present as a scientific advisor, spoke quietly. "They're testing our will. They don't need our resources or our planet. They want to see if we'll break." The debate stretched for hours. Outside, the Orion vessel still hovered, its presence crushing every human heart with invisible weight. The world was kneeling out of fear, even without orders. Governments surrendered. Armies disbanded. Only one nation after another broadcast the same plea for mercy. And then came the moment history would remember, as the day Earth bowed. At dawn, the alien ship lowered itself over the ruins of New York. A massive light column formed, and a figure descended, humanoid, radiant, cloaked in golden armor that pulsed like living energy. The emissary of the Orion Empire stepped onto human soil, his eyes cold with amusement. Humans gathered in the streets, cameras capturing every second. Drones broadcast the scene worldwide. The alien raised a hand, and every device transmitted his image. His words echoed across continents. "You have been measured. You have been found wanting. Your civilization exists by accident, your survival by luck. Do now, and we may allow your kind to serve under Orion protection." The crowd hesitated. Some fell to their knees. Others stood frozen, eyes filled with rage or despair. General Holt, standing before the emissary with her soldiers, refused to kneel. Her voice echoed through the broadcast system. "Humanity doesn't bow to tyrants." The alien tilted his head. "Then humanity dies." Before he could strike, the ground beneath them shook, not from the alien ship, but from something else. The entire planet vibrated with a frequency only Elias's team recognized. They had been working in secret, using data from the alien arrival to activate a deep defense network, buried since the Cold War. The Atlas Protocol, Earth's last-ditch planetary defense system. Massive energy shields began to form across major cities. Ancient orbital weapons, forgotten relics of early space warfare, awoke from decades of silence. Humanity's response wasn't perfect, but it was loud, defiant. The emissary looked upward in shock as hundreds of beams locked onto his ship. "Impossible," he hissed. "You are primitives." General Holt smirked. "Maybe, but we're stubborn primitives." The sky lit up as Earth fired. The first human counterattack in recorded galactic history. The battle was short, brutal, and one-sided, but not in the way anyone expected. While most of the alien vessel's outer shields remained intact, the shockwave of Earth's defiance was broadcast across every communication network in the Orion Empire. Billions of alien species watched as humanity, young, fragile, unrefined, refused to bow. The emissary retreated, his golden form dissolving back into the beam of light. Before leaving, his voice thundered across the sky. "You will regret this defiance." The Empire remembers. The ship rose higher and higher until it vanished among the stars. The silence that followed felt eternal. Then, across the planet, a single sound echoed through every city, cheering. Defiant, trembling, victorious cheering. Dr. Elias stood at the observatory window, watching the stars fade with dawn. He whispered softly, almost to himself, "They came to make us kneel. But all they did was remind us how to stand." That day, humanity didn't win a war. It didn't conquer an empire. It simply refused to bow, and that refusal changed everything. Because somewhere in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, for the first time in millennia, the Orion Empire hesitated, and the universe began to whisper about Earth. The stars above Earth burned brighter that night, as if the universe itself was watching. It had been 6 months since the Orion Empire left, defeated not by power but by pride. Humanity had stood tall, bloodied but unbroken, and though the skies were quiet, everyone knew that silence would not last. The world had changed. Governments that once argued now cooperated. The United Earth Defense Fleet, UEDF, was born, a union of every surviving military, scientist, and dreamer determined to prepare for the next wave. Earth's orbit became a factory of steel and light, building ships faster than ever before. Dr. Elias Ward had become a symbol of hope. His research on the Atlas Protocol had saved billions, and now he worked on something far greater, Project Ascendant. The goal was simple: take the fight to the stars. But deep inside, Elias feared what was coming. He had seen the data, the Orion signal before they retreated. It wasn't just anger. It was a warning, transmitted across thousands of star systems. Humanity had made itself known. Every empire, every power now knew the name of Earth, and not all of them were enemies. Some were curious. Meanwhile, in the void beyond Pluto, the Empire of Orion gathered its fleet. 1,000 golden warships floated in formation, their armor glowing like miniature suns. In the center of the formation rested the Emperor's flagship, the Hand of Eternity. Its bridge was silent, filled with alien officers in glimmering armor. The Emperor, Sol Carrion the Eternal, stood before a massive hologram of Earth. His eyes burned like molten stars. "A primitive world," he said slowly, "that dared to defy the Empire. They refused to kneel, and now they must learn the cost of pride." Beside him knelt Commander Vethra, the same emissary who had faced General Holt on Earth. His golden armor was scarred, his pride shattered. "My Emperor, they are reckless, but unpredictable. Their technology is crude, yet they wounded your honor," Sol Carrion interrupted coldly. "The galaxy watched our humiliation. You will lead the vanguard. You will burn their skies until the ashes whisper obedience." Vethra lowered his head. "As you command, my Emperor." The Empire moved. On Earth, life went on, but with eyes always fixed on the heavens. General Rebecca Holt stood aboard the orbital defense station Vigilant Dawn. Below her, Earth rotated in silence, its oceans glittering like blue fire. Around her, hundreds of ships, human-made, floated proudly, carrying names like Dauntless. Liberty and Iron Resolve Mara, Dr. Elias's assistant, now served as communications officer aboard the Vigilant Dawn. She approached Holt with urgent news. "Ma'am, we've received a long-range distortion. Unknown energy signature, matching Orion technology. Holt's jaw tightened. How long? 17 hours before they reach the edge of our system. The general's voice was steady, calm, the same calm that soldiers felt before a storm. Then we meet them in the dark. 17 hours later, space erupted in fire. From the void beyond Neptune, golden ships emerged like ghosts of light. The Orion Armada stretched farther than human eyes could count. Each ship dwarfed anything Earth had ever built. The sheer scale was enough to crush hope, but humanity had learned not to give up easily. The first human fleet, led by Admiral Kovacs, engaged them near the orbit of Jupiter. Lasers, rail guns, and plasma torpedoes filled the void with streaks of fire. The Empire's shields shimmered like sunlight on water, absorbing most attacks. But when one of Earth's new Dreadnought-class ships, the Resolute Dawn, fired its main cannon, the impossible happened. One of the smaller Orion cruisers exploded in a blinding flash. Direct hit. Shouted Kovacs. They're not invincible. That moment changed everything. For the first time in galactic history, an Empire ship, undefeated for 10,000 years, had fallen to human hands. From his command bridge, Commander Vethra watched the battle unfold. His forces were winning, but not easily. Humanity's tactics were chaotic, unpredictable. They sacrificed ships to protect others. They fought in groups that shifted mid-combat. And worst of all, they adapted fast. Vethra clenched his fists. So this is the will of Earth. When his flagship was struck by a suicide ram from the Iron Resolve, Vethra realized something terrifying. These humans were not fighting to survive. They were fighting to teach the galaxy a lesson. Meanwhile, deep under the mountains of Antarctica, Dr. Elias and his team initiated the final phase of Project Ascendant. Inside a vast chamber glowed a structure of light and metal, Earth's first interstellar gate. It pulsed with raw energy, enough to rip open a path through space. Mara's voice echoed over the comms. Elias, the fleet is falling back. If this gate doesn't work, it will work, Elias replied, eyes locked on the console. It has to. If they take Earth, there won't be a second chance. The chamber shook as the gate roared to life, filling the air with a thunderous hum. At that exact moment, in orbit, General Holt's ship took a direct hit. The Vigilant Dawn was crippled, flames bursting across its hull. Her crew shouted warnings, but she ignored them, gazing at the planet below. Elias, she said into the comms, voice weak but steady. You tell them, Earth never kneels. Her transmission ended in static as her ship exploded in light. In the aftermath, the Orion Armada pushed closer to Earth's orbit, only to find something waiting. The Project Ascendant gate activated, and a massive energy surge erupted across the planet's magnetic field. Every remaining human ship retreated behind it. Commander Vethra's sensors screamed warnings. Gravitational instability, unknown particles, matter distortion. He realized too late what was happening. Elias had done it. Earth had become the weapon. The gate didn't open to another star. It opened into the Orion fleet itself. A blinding pulse of white energy expanded outward, swallowing hundreds of ships in a storm of collapsing space. The Empire's perfect formation shattered as the human fleet charged through the chaos. Guns blazing, the voice of Mara echoed across open comms. For every world you crushed, for every species you enslaved, this is humanity's answer. The last thing Vethra saw before his ship disintegrated was the blue glow of Earth burning like a newborn star, alive, defiant, unbroken. Hours later, the battle ended. The surviving Orion ships retreated into hyperspace. Half of Earth's fleet was gone, but the planet stood free. The people of Earth watched the sunrise that morning with tears in their eyes. The sky was scarred but beautiful. Dr. Elias, standing among the ruins of the Antarctic base, looked up at the stars. He whispered softly, "We didn't just survive. We changed the rules, because for the first time in known history, the Orion Empire had been defeated, and the galaxy would never see Earth the same way again. The galaxy had gone silent, not the peaceful kind of silence, but the kind that comes after thunder, the kind that hums with fear. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Orion Empire had lost a war. Not to another empire, not to some ancient rival, but to a species barely out of its cradle, humanity. the world that refused to kneel. News of Earth's victory spread faster than light, carried by whispers and stolen transmissions. Across distant worlds, slaves looked up from their chains and dared to hope. Hidden colonies murmured the name Earth like a secret prayer. And deep within the Orion core worlds, the unthinkable happened. Doubt. The Empire was bleeding not in metal or fire, but in fear. Dr. Elias Ward sat in the command room of the new orbital station. Genesis 1, the view outside showed a scarred, Earth still healing, clouds tinted with faint gold from the last battle's energy storms. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Duliso. Half of Earth's cities were still rebuilding. Millions were gone. But humanity was not broken. It was awake. Elias adjusted his headset as a hollow transmission flickered to life. General Rebecca Holt's image appeared, or rather her successor, Admiral Leon Voss, a calm woman with steel-gray eyes. "Doctor," she began, "we've intercepted something strange. It's not Orion tech. It's older, and it's broadcasting on frequencies no one's used in centuries." Elias frowned. "A distress call?" "More like an invitation." The signal came from deep space, a region called the Veil Expanse, a no-man's land between the outer Orion borders and forgotten systems. The message was short, simple, and chilling. "To the species that defied the Orion throne, we see you. We remember what freedom costs. Come if you wish to change the galaxy." For 3 days, Earth's leadership debated what to do. Some feared a trap. Others saw an opportunity. In the end, the choice was clear. They couldn't ignore the first sign of life that wasn't hostile. And so the UEDF Cruiser Horizon was launched. Its mission: find the source of the message and discover who or what was calling Earth. Captain Arlen Graves stood on the bridge of the horizon. He was young, too young for the burden of representing humanity beyond Sol, but brave enough to try. Beside him sat Lieutenant Mara, Dr. Elias's old assistant, now serving as communications officer. "Entering the Expanse," she reported. "Sensors reading. Debris, a lot of it. Old battlefields. Thousands of wrecks, maybe older than the Empire itself." The crew stared out the viewport in awe. Floating before them were the remains of ships unlike anything seen before. Vast, skeletal titans of stone and metal, glowing faintly with ancient energy. "What is this place?" whispered Arlen. Elias's voice came through the comm from Earth. "If the data's right, Captain, you're looking at what's left of the First War, the one even the Orion archives tried to erase." Mara stiffened. "Who were they fighting?" Elias hesitated before answering. "Someone stronger." Hours later, a new signal appeared, closer, sharper. The horizon sensors picked up movement. From the shadow of a derelict battleship, something emerged, sleek, silver, and alive. A small vessel approached, its design fluid and graceful, as though grown rather than built. When it came close enough, it broadcast a single message. "Do not fear. We are the Elendari, and we have been waiting for you, children of Earth." The crew froze. An image appeared on the main screen. A tall figure, pale as moonlight, eyes shimmering like liquid silver. Her voice was melodic but weary, carrying centuries of pain. "You are the first in millennia to strike the Orion and survive. The galaxy trembles because of you. We once tried to do the same, and we failed." Captain Arlen leaned forward. "You fought them too?" The Elendari nodded. "Long ago, before your son was born, we rose against the Empire, and they erased our worlds. We've hidden ever since, waiting for someone who could do what we could not." Her gaze sharpened. "But now, you have changed everything. The Empire bleeds, its allies doubt, and the slaves begin to whisper your name. You must not stop now," Mara frowned. "What do you want from us?" The alien smiled faintly. "Not servitude, not alliance, hope. The Orion's power comes from fear. If the galaxy sees that they can bleed, others will rise." Arlen exchanged a glance with his crew. "And if we refuse?" The Elendari's voice turned sorrowful. "Then your world will burn when the Emperor comes himself. He will not forgive this insult." Her image flickered, replaced by coordinates. "Meet us here on the ruins of Seraphis Prime. There the galaxy's truth sleeps." Then she vanished. Back on Earth, the council was divided. Some wanted to focus on rebuilding, not on chasing ghosts in dead space. Others, like Admiral Voss and Dr. Elias, argued that this was the only chance humanity might ever get to break the Empire's hold on the stars. Elias stood before the council, eyes burning with conviction. They already know who we are. They already fear us. If we hide now, the Orion will crush us one planet at a time. But if we move first, we can rally others before the Emperor strikes again. After hours of debate, the vote was cast. The decision was unanimous. Project Dawnfire was approved, a multi-species alliance mission to travel beyond the Veil, find the truth about Seraphis Prime, and awaken whatever secret the Elendari guarded. Far away, the throne room of the Orion Empire, Emperor Solkarion stood before a dying star. His face was cold, carved from hate and pride. "They gather allies," whispered one of his advisors. "They speak your name in the same breath as rebellion." The Emperor's gaze turned toward the distant image of Earth. "Then let them gather," he said softly. "Let them believe they are free. When I arrive, they will remember why the galaxy bowed." Back aboard Genesis 1, Dr. Elias watched as the Horizon and her escort ships prepared for departure. He whispered to himself, "They came to make us kneel, and now they run from our shadow." As the ships leapt into the void, their engines streaking across the stars, humanity's story left its homeworld for the first time. Not as servants, but as symbols, and somewhere in the ruins of forgotten empires, old powers began to stir, watching the rise of the one species that dared to defy the impossible. The Gaib species that made Earth a name the stars would never forget. The void beyond the Veil expanse was darker than any night known to humankind. Stars seemed to die there, their light swallowed by invisible storms that twisted space itself. Yet through that abyss a single human fleet pushed forward, guided by faith, fury, and a signal older than their civilization. The UEDF Horizon led the way. Behind it, two escort ships, Dauntless and Nova Wing, cut through the silence like silver blades. Their destination, Seraphis Prime, the world the Elendari claimed held the galaxy's lost truth. Captain Arlen Graves stood at the bridge window, staring into the swirling void. His reflection looked older now, worn by battle and burden, but there was fire in his eyes, the same fire that had burned in every human who refused to bow. "Status?" he asked quietly. Lieutenant Mara responded from the console beside him. "All systems stable. Radiation spikes ahead, but manageable. We're closing in on Seraphis Prime's coordinates." Dr. Elias Ward's hologram flickered onto the bridge from Earth. "Remember, Captain, this planet isn't on any known chart. If the Elendari were right, Seraphis Prime predates the Orion Empire itself. Proceed carefully. Whatever's there may not want to be found." Arlen nodded grimly. "Understood, Doctor. We'll tread lightly." As the fleet broke through the last distortion field, Seraphis Prime came into view, and silence fell across the bridge. The planet was a graveyard. Once a jewel of blue and gold, it now hung lifeless, wrapped in broken rings of debris and shattered moons. Vast scars cut across its surface, glowing faintly with silver fire. From orbit, it looked like the corpse of a world struck by gods, by the stars. Whispered Mara, "What happened here?" Arlen's voice was hushed. "War long before the Orion, maybe even before the Elendari. The fleet entered low orbit. Scans revealed massive structures half buried in the dust, cities carved into mountains, towers made of metal unknown to any database. But beneath all that, something pulsed, something alive." Elias's voice crackled through the comms. "That energy signature. It's impossible. Matches the same readings we detected during the Orion attack on Earth. But it's older, much older." Arlen frowned. "You're saying this planet holds the same power the Empire uses?" "Yes," Elias replied, voice tense. "Or maybe the source they stole it from." The away team descended to the planet's surface. The air was thin, the sky fractured with lightning that didn't make a sound. Ruins stretched for miles, temples and machines fused together, as if technology and faith had been one. Mara's boots crunched over black dust as she stared at an enormous statue half buried in the sand. A figure with wings of stone, face erased by time. A whisper of wind passed, carrying faint echoes, voices, prayers, perhaps memories of the dead. "Captain," she said softly, "I think this place was sacred." Arlen nodded. Let's find out who they were praying to. They followed their scanners toward the source of the energy reading, a massive chasm glowing from within. As they approached, the ground trembled, and a metallic pulse echoed from the depths. Then the voice came, not through comms, not through sound, but directly into their minds. Who walks the bones of Seraphis? The soldiers froze, hands on their weapons. Arlen stepped forward. We are from Earth. We came seeking truth. The Ilindari told us you might help us fight the Orion Empire. Silence. Then a slow, sorrowful laugh. The Orion still reigns. Then our failure lingers yet. The ground cracked, and from the chasm rose a colossal figure. Not flesh, not machine, but something in between. Its form was humanoid, towering, wings of light folded across its back. Its voice carried both despair and command. We are the Seraphim constructs, keepers of what remains. Once we forged empires of stars. Once we defied the Orion. But in their victory they erased our name and chained the galaxy in fear. Mara whispered. You fought them too. The Seraphim's eyes flared white. Fought? No, we created them. A chill swept through every human there. Arlen took a step back. What did you say? The Orion were our children. Born from our arrogance. We sought perfection. A species without weakness, immortal, unified, unfeeling. And they turned upon us. They learned to bow to nothing, except themselves. The realization hit them like a blade. The Orion Empire, the monsters who demanded submission, were not gods. They were mistakes. Children of creators who lost control. Arlen's voice trembled. If they were your creation, then you must know how to stop them. Once, yes. But the weapon we built to destroy them, we buried here, and we swore never to awaken it again. The Seraphim's gaze lowered toward the glowing pit. Inside, faint lights pulsed like a heartbeat. If you claim to stand where we fell, then the choice is yours. Awaken the heart of Seraphis, and unleash the power to unmake the Orion. But beware, such power burns not only your enemies. Mara turned to Arlen. Captain, if this is real, I know, he said. It could save us, or destroy everything. Back on the horizon, Dr. Elias listened through the comms, his mind racing. If the heart of Seraphis truly held the key to defeating the Empire, it could change the course of galactic history, or end it entirely. He spoke into the transmitter, his voice tight with caution. Arlen, do not activate anything until we understand it. The Seraphim destroyed themselves for a reason. But before Arlen could reply, the ground shook violently. The heart pulsed faster, reacting to something in orbit. Mara's console beeped wildly. Incoming signatures. Multiple contacts! They found us! The skies tore open as golden warships emerged from hyperspace. The Orion Empire had arrived. Vethra's fleet, reborn and furious, descended like fire. His voice echoed across open comms. Did you think the Empire would not watch its own graves? You desecrate what you do not understand, humans. You awaken death. Arlen drew his weapon, staring into the storm. Tell your Emperor we're just getting started. The Seraphim's voice boomed once more. Then the test begins. Let us see if you are worthy of the fire you seek. The ruins came alive. Massive machines awakening, rising from the dust with blinding light. The heart of Seraphis throbbed like a star being born. The battlefield was set. The lost creators, their fallen children, and humanity caught between them. As the first shots lit the sky, Dr. Elias's voice came through the static. Arlen, whatever happens, don't let them bow us again. And with that, the war for the galaxy's soul began anew, on the world where gods once died. The ground split open like a wound in the world. Light, white, violent, alive, surged from beneath the ruins of Seraphis Prime, shaking the heavens themselves. The heart of Seraphis was awakening. Captain Arlen Graves shielded his eyes as the shockwave swept across the valley. The energy hit every scanner, every system, every nerve. For a heartbeat, even time seemed to stutter. Status. He shouted over the comms. Lieutenant Mara's voice cracked with static. Energy levels spiking beyond measurable range. The heart's pulling power straight from the planet's core. Maybe even the system's star. Above them, the sky blazed with golden fire as Orion warships descended. Commander Vethra's fleet cut through the atmosphere like a storm of vengeance. You were warned, humans. His voice thundered across all channels. You tamper with relics that burned empires. Now you'll join them in dust. Arlen clenched his jaw. Not today. He turned to the seraphim construct towering over the ruins. You said this weapon can destroy the Orion. How? The being's eyes flared with sorrowful light. The heart was forged to end gods, to unmake what should not exist. But it requires a will to command it, a living mind, one willing to be consumed. Mara stared in horror. You mean someone has to die to use it? Not die, the seraphim whispered. Cease. Back aboard the Horizon, Dr. Elias watched the readings from orbit. His heart pounded. The planet's energy signature was off the charts, enough to tear a hole in subspace if unleashed. Captain, listen to me, Elias said through the comms. That weapon isn't a gun, it's a singularity generator. If you activate it without control, you'll destroy everything in the system. Arlen's voice came through calm but resolute. And if we don't, the Empire burns Earth next. Arlen, but before Elias could finish, a massive explosion ripped through the upper atmosphere. The Orion fleet had opened fire. Golden lances of energy struck the surface, vaporizing entire valleys. The Seraphim's ancient towers crumbled as the ground turned molten. Still, the heart pulsed faster, as if answering the attack. The weapon senses conflict, the Seraphim boomed. It remembers the last war. It remembers fear. The humans looked up as the heart's glow spread outward, forming tendrils of light that reached for the stars, touching every ship, every sensor, every soul. And then something impossible happened. The Orion ships stopped firing. Their systems flickered, their weapons deactivated, their shields dropped. Across the sky, the mighty Empire's vessels hung motionless, trapped in the heart's influence. Mara whispered, "It's rewriting their tech." Shutting them down, Arlen exhaled. "Then let's finish this." He activated his comms. "Elias, can you link the heart's core to our ship's main reactor?" Elias hesitated. "Arlen, if you link it, it'll use your ship as the control key." "You won't survive." The captain looked up at the storming sky. "Maybe not, but Earth will." Meanwhile, in orbit, the Orion flagship, Vethra's Retribution, tried to regain control. Sparks rained across its bridge as the commander's armor flickered from the heart's interference. Vethra roared, slamming his fist into the console. "What is this? This human madness?" His second-in-command, trembling, whispered, "It's Seraphis, sir." The old power. They woke it. Vethra turned his burning gaze toward the planet. "Then I'll burn with it before I bow again." He activated manual override and dove his ship toward the surface. Below, the heart roared like a star being born. Arlen's ship, the Horizon, hovered directly above it, tethered by beams of energy linking its core to the weapon. Inside, alarms blared. Mara struggled to stabilize the systems. "Captain, if we keep this up, the core's going to overload." Arlen placed his hand on her shoulder. "You need to go, Mara. Get to the Nova Wing, that's an order." She froze. "Arlen, no," he gave her a small smile. "Someone has to guide the heart. Someone who knows what we're fighting for." She shook her head, tears burning in her eyes. "You'll die." Arlen looked out the window at the blinding light below. "Maybe, but not as someone who bowed." Before she could protest, he pressed the emergency transfer. Mara was pulled into a pod and launched toward the upper atmosphere, her cries fading into static. The Horizon descended into the chasm. Arlen placed his hands on the glowing interface that pulsed like a living heart. The Seraphim construct knelt beside him, its ancient voice echoing. "Do you understand what you ask of yourself, human?" Arlen nodded. "I do." "Then speak your command." The captain took a deep breath. "End the Empire, but spare the innocent. Then so it shall be." Light consumed everything. The heart unleashed its full power, a wave of pure energy that surged upward, wrapping around the planet and exploding into space. The Orion ships, thousands of them, disintegrated in silence, their golden hulls turning to dust. Commander Vethra's flagship, engulfed in the storm, began to crumble. As it fell, Vethra's final words echoed in fury and awe. "So this is what defiance looks like." Then he was gone. From orbit, Mara watched in stunned silence as the entire Orion fleet vanished in a burst of light that painted the void white. Seraphis Prime glowed brighter than a star, then went dark. Her comms crackled. "Dr. Elias to all ships." The energy signatures collapsing. The heart has burned out. Arlen, she whispered. No answer. The last thing she saw before the surface went black was a faint silhouette standing before the light. Captain Arlen Graves, humanity's first martyr among the stars. Weeks later, Earth received the transmission. It was a simple message, weak and broken, carried through fragments of static. The heart sleeps again. The Empire is wounded. Keep standing, whatever comes next. Humanity mourned its hero and celebrated its impossible victory. The Orion Empire had been shattered. Dozens of worlds under its rule rose in rebellion. Across the galaxy, statues of gold were torn down, and for the first time in ages, the stars whispered not in fear, but in hope. Dr. Elias stood on the balcony of Genesis 1, gazing at the night sky. Beside him, Mara placed a hand over her heart. He did it, she said softly. Elias nodded. He gave us something greater than victory. She looked at him confused. What's that? He smiled faintly. A legend, but far beyond the edges of known space, deep in the ruins of the Aryan capital, something stirred. The Emperor, Sol Carrion the Eternal, rose from his throne, his golden armor cracked, his eyes burning brighter than ever. So the child burns the parent, he murmured. Let them celebrate their defiance. When I rise again, they will kneel willingly. And in the dying light of his empire, the first ember of vengeance was born. The universe trembled as whispers of Seraphis Prime spread through every known system. The mighty Orion Empire, once thought invincible, had fallen silent. For the first time in millennia, their golden fleets did not patrol the stars. Their arrogant banners no longer cast shadows across conquered worlds. And yet, silence was not peace. Deep within the broken throne world of Arendor, beneath shattered spires of gold and glass, Emperor Sol Carrion the Eternal awoke. The once radiant monarch now looked like a god dragged through fire. His armor was cracked, his crown fused to his flesh. The power that once made galaxies tremble now burned inside him, unstable, furious, alive. He stood before a vast mirror of living metal, his reflection flickering with ghostly echoes. They think the Empire has fallen, he whispered, voice low and venomous. They think a mortal broke me. 1,000 holographic advisors flickered to life around him, kneeling in fractured loyalty. Your Grace, said one trembling voice. The human weapon destroyed 2/3 of our fleets. Commanders are surrendering. The colonies are rising in rebellion. The Emperor raised a hand. The advisor disintegrated into ash. Then we will rebuild, he said coldly. But not as we were. The Orion shall rise again, forged in vengeance, bound by pain. He turned toward the darkened void beyond his palace and whispered a single command. Awaken the Eclipse Forge. Meanwhile, far from Arendor, on a hidden moon orbiting Titan's outer colonies, humanity was rebuilding too. The survivors of Horizon's crew, led by Lieutenant Mara Voss and Dr. Elias Wren, worked tirelessly to form what would soon be called the Galactic Alliance. Human engineers, alien rebels, and defectors from the Aryan ranks gathered under one banner. Not to conquer, but to defend what was left of free space. In a dimly lit command center, Mara stood before a holographic map of the stars, her eyes scanning the spreading darkness. Elias entered quietly, holding a datapad. You should rest, he said softly. I can't, Mara replied, voice tight. Every time I close my eyes, I see Arlen's ship falling into the light. Elias hesitated. He made his choice. Because he believed we'd carry on, she nodded slowly. Then we'll prove him right. She turned toward the holomap again. What's the latest intel on the Orion? Elias sighed. Our scouts say their core worlds are in chaos. But the Emperor, Mara's gaze hardened. He's still alive. Yes, Elias said grimly. And he's building something. Something massive. Across the void on Arendor, the Eclipse Forge roared to life. It was not a factory. It was a living entity. A colossal construct, half machine, half organism, feeding on dying stars. It devoured worlds to create warships. Vessels unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Ships that bled energy, that howled as they moved, as if the souls of their builders were trapped inside. Sol Carrion stood upon a platform overlooking the chaos, his golden eyes reflecting the burning light. You killed my fleet, he murmured to the void. Now I will make fleets that cannot die. He reached out, his gauntlet glowing with the stolen power of Seraphis Prime. The heart's residue, the very energy that destroyed him, was now being reforged. Weeks later, humanity's deep space sensors picked up the first signal, a fleet, vast, silent, stoppable, emerging from the black edges of space. Mara rushed to the command deck, her heart pounding. Report. Lieutenant Harris looked pale. It's not just a fleet. It's a storm. Energy readings beyond known limits. They're coming straight for the Sol Gate. Elias analyzed the data. Oh no, those aren't ships. They're forged entities, living constructs powered by Seraphis energy. The realization hit Mara like a blow. He's using the same power that destroyed him. Elias nodded grimly. He's learned from us. The bridge fell silent. The stars themselves seemed to darken as the incoming armada filled every sensor. The Emperor's wrath had begun. From the heart of the fleet, Solkarion transmitted across all frequencies. His voice heard on every world, every ship, every mind. People of the lesser stars, you believed yourselves free. You mistook mercy for weakness. You bowed the day I allowed you to stand. Now you will remember what it means to kneel before the Eternal. On Titan's moon, the transmission ended. The command room was silent. Mara's fist trembled. He's declaring total war, Elias swallowed. And he has the means to win it. She turned to the gathered captains, humans, Dravk warriors, and even a few Orion defectors. Then we fight. Every world that suffered under him, every child born in the shadow of his empire, will fight. She looked up at the hologram of Earth, glowing faintly among the stars. Because Earth doesn't bow twice. The first battle came 3 days later, at the edge of the Helion Belt. The Alliance fleet, barely organized, faced the Emperor's armada. The human ships were sleek but small, patched together with stolen Orion tech. Against them rose the Eclipse fleet, colossal, radiant, unstoppable. The space between them burned as thousands of plasma lances ignited at once. Human pilots screamed over comms. Ships vanished like sparks in the wind. Every weapon they fired barely scratched the Orion shields. Elias watched from the bridge, despair in his eyes. It's no use. They're too strong, but Mara refused to yield. Then we find their weakness. There's always one. As she spoke, one of the enemy ships exploded from within. A voice crackled over the comms. This is Captain Terran of the Dravk. I found their core. They're powered by captured souls, trapped energy fields. Hit them at the heart. Mara's eyes widened. He's right. They're alive, and that means they can die. The Alliance rallied. Ships dove into suicidal runs, targeting the glowing centers of the Eclipse vessels. One by one, the monsters began to fall. But for every ship destroyed, 2 more emerged from the forge. Elias whispered, "This isn't a war. It's extinction." Mara's reply was cold, unwavering. "Then we'll burn the forge itself." On Arendor, Solkarion felt their defiance like a thorn in his mind. He smiled. "Good, let them come. I want to see what their courage looks like." Up close, his eyes flared brighter than the suns themselves. "And when I'm done, I'll carve their defiance into the bones of their world." The Emperor's wrath had begun, and the galaxy would soon learn what kind of fury humanity could awaken in turn. The galaxy burned, entire. Star systems flickered out like dying candles. Devoured by the Eclipse fleet, the monstrous armada born from the Emperor's rage. Every world they touched became a grave. Every signal from the front carried the same message: no survivors. And yet, humanity still stood. On the edge of known space, the Titan Command Citadel glowed like a defiant spark in the void. Inside, holographic maps filled the war room. Each red marker a fallen world, each blue one a last, desperate outpost. Lieutenant Mara Voss stood at the center, her face pale but resolute. Across from her, Dr. Elias Wren adjusted his datapad, voice grim. "We've lost 70% of the fleet. The Dravk worlds have fallen. The Orion rebels are being hunted one by one." Mara stared at the hologram of Arendor, the Emperor's world, the heart of his empire, glowing crimson like a wound in space. "And yet we still have one chance," she said quietly. Elias frowned. "You mean that plan?" She nodded. "We hit the Eclipse Forge directly. If we destroy it, his fleets die with it. Elias shook his head. That's suicide. His world is wrapped in enough energy to vaporize a moon. No ship can get close without... She interrupted softly. Arlen's ship could. The room fell silent. Mara activated a small projection, the image of Captain Arlen Graves, standing in front of the horizon before its last mission. He sacrificed himself to save Earth, but he didn't die for nothing. We recovered fragments of his ship, and part of the Seraphis core still pulses. Elias's eyes widened. You found it? Yes, she said. And I'm going to use it. Hours later in the hangar, the rebuilt ship stood ready, dark, scarred, and humming with unnatural energy. It was the Horizon's Echo, a fusion of human steel, Orion design, and Seraphis technology. The last weapon humanity had. Mara placed her hand on its hull, feeling the faint heartbeat within. A soft voice echoed in her mind, familiar, calm, and resolute. You shouldn't be here, Mara, she froze. Arlen. What's left of me, the voice said. The heart remembered my will. My command still echoes through it. She swallowed hard. Then help me finish this. You don't have to die. I know, she whispered. But if I don't, everyone else will. For a moment, silence. Then the voice softened. Then we do it together. Battle for Arendor. The Alliance fleet, what remained of it, emerged from hyperspace like a wounded storm. 200 ships against 10,000 Eclipse constructs. It wasn't a fight. It was a miracle waiting to happen. Formation Delta. Mara shouted through the comms. All ships target the Forge's main conduits. If we can sever the energy flow, it'll collapse on itself. The void exploded into chaos. Orion fire cut through human ships like paper. Drave cruisers rammed enemy vessels head-on, tearing themselves apart in fiery sacrifice. Every explosion was a scream. Every victory a heartbeat closer to death. And at the center of it all, Horizon's Echo cut through the battlefield like a blade. Inside, the lights flickered, systems failing, but the voice, Arlen's voice, guided her. 30 seconds to impact. The Forge is charging its core. Then we go faster, Mara growled. She gripped the controls and dove through the blinding storm of light. The Eclipse ships swarmed, forming a living shield around the Forge. They're protecting the heart, Arlen said, just like Seraphis did. Then we tear it out. In the depths of the Forge, Emperor Solkarion watched the battle unfold. His golden eyes blazed with contempt. Pitiful creatures, he whispered. Do they not understand what I've become? He raised his hand, merging his will with the Forge. The entire structure pulsed as if alive, its veins glowing with the same light that once consumed Seraphis Prime. I am no longer Emperor, he hissed. I am eternal. Energy flared outward, sweeping through the battlefield. Ships exploded by the dozens, torn apart by a single thought from the Emperor's mind. Mara screamed as the Echo shook violently. Warning lights blared. Shields down. We can't take another hit. Then we won't, Arlen's voice replied. Brace yourself. Suddenly, the Echo vanished, phase shifting into the quantum layer. The ship became pure light, invisible and untouchable, slicing through enemy lines like a ghost. They emerged deep inside the Forge itself, within the Emperor's throne chamber. The walls shimmered with molten gold, rivers of energy flowing like blood. At the center stood Solkarion, massive and radiant, his presence almost divine. He turned, smiling coldly. Ah, humanity's stubborn spark. Mara stepped forward, her body trembling under the gravity of his aura. You destroyed worlds, she said, but you never broke us. He laughed in a sound like thunder splitting the stars. You think defiance makes you strong? No, child. It makes you interesting. She raised the Seraphis core, glowing brighter than ever. Let's see how interesting this gets. The Emperor's expression changed, for the first time a flicker of fear. That power. You don't understand it. Maybe not, she said. But Arlen does. The ship's systems locked onto the core. Arlen's voice, calm and final, filled the chamber. Solkarion, you wanted gods. You made monsters. Now meet the humans who end them. The Seraphis core ignited. Light consumed everything. The Forge screamed as its own energy turned against it. The Emperor roared, his golden armor cracking, his body dissolving in the blast. I am eternal. Then silence. The forge collapsed, pulling the entire fleet into its imploding heart. A supernova blossomed where Arendor once stood, lighting the void brighter than any star. Weeks later, the war was over. The Emperor was gone, his empire shattered, and humanity, the bruised, bleeding, but alive, stood at the dawn of a new age. Mara stood on the deck of the rebuilt Horizon Station, watching the sunrise over Earth. Elias approached quietly. "It's finally over," he said. She smiled faintly. "No, it's finally beginning," he frowned. "You really think peace will last?" She looked up at the stars. "Maybe not forever, but for now, Earth doesn't bow to anyone." In the silence, she heard a faint whisper, carried on the solar winds. "You did it, Mara." She smiled through her tears. "No, Arlen, we did." As the new Galactic Alliance formed, one phrase spread across the stars, whispered by soldiers, rebels and free worlds alike. When the gods demanded we kneel, humanity stood, and from that day on, the day Earth bowed became the day the galaxy learned never to make it bow again.